Welcome back to the Distressed Princess. I'm Rhonda. In today's video, I'm sharing my very favorite Christmas crafts. They're in no particular order because I love them all so much, I couldn't pick a number one. The first DIY that I'm going to show to you today is this really cute sleigh that I made out of this container from the Dollar Tree. And all I did was paint it with my trusty Waverly white chalk paint, 2 coats for good coverage. And then I used Waverly truffle brown chalk paint to give this sleigh some dimension. So I very lightly dry brush some of this brown paint all over all sides of this sleigh. Now for the legs of the sleigh. I don't know if legs is the right word, skis, feet, I don't know, but I used wreath hangers and I bend, as you see here, I bend. They're really easy to snap apart, and once I got one bent and snapped apart, I used it as a guide to bend and snap apart the second one, so they were both the same length. And is it legs, feet, skis? Let me know in the comment, what do you call the part that makes the sleigh go? Anyway, then I sanded the edges so that they weren't sharp, and I used 4 of the dark color tumbling blocks out of the tumbling Jenga game from the Dollar Tree. Oh, the wreath hangers were from Dollar Tree too, and I used those to... I didn't want the sleigh to be sitting right on the legs, so that's what I used the little blocks for, to kind of set it up and give it some, I don't know, realistic height. Here you see I use hot glue to put these blocks down, but I do recommend a combination hot glue and E6000 because I did have a little trouble with the blocks wanting to stick, so eventually I did go back and do E6000 along with the hot glue. So save yourself trouble and do that first. So hot glue and E6000 your blocks down, and then once they are down, you will put your legs onto the blocks. Our Dollar Tree sleigh is almost ready to go. The only thing left was to add a little embellishment, and I used this little ornament from the Dollar General that I got for just $1, and I hot glued it to the side. It would also be neat to hot glue the very same ornament to the other side, but I only had one, so we're just going with what we have here. Then I wadded up some of that snow drape and put 2 Dollar Tree Christmas trees in the sleigh. You could put presents in there or whatever your heart desires, but I just love how this sleigh turned out. The next dupe is a sign that I found at Michael's that I fell in love with, and it was on sale for $20.99, but we can do that way cheaper using items from the Dollar Tree. This beach sign is a really good size, and you're going to paint it 2 coats of white chalk paint. Then I printed out the words that I was going to need, and I scribbled pencil all over the back so that I could transfer it onto my sign. Then I used a silver Sharpie to go over the words. I already had this frosted boxwood greenery from Walmart that I bought last year for 97 or 98 cents. So I decided to use it. I thought it was close enough to mistletoe, but of course you could go out and buy mistletoe, but I just used what I had on hand. So I cut a few sprigs of it off and hot glued it onto the sign. Actually, before I hot glued it to the sign, I tied it together with a piece of jute string to try to keep it all in one bunch. Then I made a bow using some white frosty ribbon that I got at the Dollar Tree and hot glued it to the top. Then, using this vase filler that I got from the Dollar Tree, I picked out all the smaller white little berries, that's what I'm going to call them, because that's what they're being used for. I picked out all the smaller ones and I hot glued those to my mistletoe. The original sign at Michael's had a little postage stamp looking design in the upper right corner, which I decided I would rather leave mine without. But if you decided to put that on, it looked like it would be very simple to draw, and I would just use the silver Sharpie. The next one of my favorites is using a 10-inch embroidery hoop that I got at Walmart. For this DIY, I used the larger outside part. These are some greenery picks that I got at Hobby Lobby, and they were half price, so only about $2 a piece. And I decided to go ahead and use the full pick instead of just trimming off some pieces because I wanted this wreath to look nice and full. I figured the easiest way to secure the Christmas picks into place would be using cable ties. You could use a hot glue gun or any other method, but I wanted to be able to remove these in case I wanted to reuse them later down the road, and cable ties are just so easy and handy. this white frosty ribbon I got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use it along with some burlap ribbon also from Dollar Tree and the middle wired solid white ribbon from Michael's to do my first try at a messy bow. And I love it. You'll see how easy it is. I just measured to see, what size of bow I wanted to be making, and then cut several pieces of the ribbon, each one. I didn't even count. Then I decided I wanted some jute string incorporated into the bow too, and I cut several pieces, all this pretty much the same length, but there's no measuring involved. It's just eyeballing it. And then you start laying your pieces of ribbon, your pieces of string, one on top, just like I'm doing here, until you're happy with the look of it. And I really only had enough of that burlap ribbon to have 2 pieces, so I had to be kind of strategic in how I placed that. When you get your ribbon all the way you think you want it, I used a cable tie. You could use a piece of string, a jute string, whatever, pipe cleaner, to secure it into place, and then fluff your bow out. It's already looking beautiful. In the center to hide the cable tie, I decided to use one of these snowflakes that I got a package of at Hobby Lobby, half price, so $2.50 for this whole box. I painted the snowflake white, and then I put some white glitter. Look how pretty already. I loved making this bow. Then I hot glued the bow to the center of the swag on the wreath. Then I hot glued the little white glittery snowflake to the center of the bow. This was by far the easiest wreath I ever made, and I believe it is my favorite. I found these ornaments at Hobby Lobby. They came in 3 in a pack. They were $12.99 regular. Now, if they were 50% off, it might be worth it, but I wanted to see if I could recreate it anyway, just for the fun of it. So using these materials from Dollar Tree, and the Frosty Flurry Snow could be substituted with Epsom salt, and I think that would be fine too. The first thing I needed to do was make a funnel, which I did just using a piece of paper and taping it into a funnel shape so that it might help with the mess of trying to get the snow flurries into the clear ornament, which came from Dollar Tree. If you have something, maybe a tin can would work to hold your ball on top while you work, that's very handy. I'll be using a Christmas floral pick that I got at the Dollar Tree, and I want to use the pine part of it. That's what's going to go inside of the clear ornament. So I just used my wire cutters to snip off a couple of pieces. I really think that you could just attach a ribbon here at the top, and that would be really cute, or just tie a piece of jute string into a bow, but I was trying to recreate the exact thing that I saw at Hobby Lobby, and they had jute string woven around the whole top, let's say 1/4 of the ball. So I proceeded to try to get that jute string away from Piper and hot glue it in circles around the top of the ball. Now using some of the, I call it twisty garland from the Dollar Tree, that's what I'm going to decorate the top of the ornament with. So I just twisted it around as you see here, and then I hot glued it down. I'm using a couple of the tiny little pine cones that you get a whole bag of at the Dollar Tree. I hot glued those to the front of the twisty tie garland. And because it's just so dang pretty, I decided to put some snow on my pine cones and my garland using white Waverly chalk paint. And the last step to making this beautiful ornament is just to tie a little hanger out of jute string to the top. The final cost of this ornament is somewhere around $2 because the ornament itself was only $1, the floral pick was $1, the pine cones, the garland came in a multi-pack, the snow flurries came in a big bag, and I already had the jute string on hand. The second craft in Mrs. Claus's kitchen today is a pair of mugs that we are going to decorate using Dollar General wall stickers that's only $1, this special dishwasher safe Mod Podge, and red acrylic paint. The first thing you need to do is read the instructions on your Mod Podge, which I failed to do. What you need to do is put a coat of Mod Podge down on your mug first and then put your wall sticker, and I'm sure this is to help your stickers stay on longer and just wear better. Now with your red acrylic paint, you'll paint a cheerful ring around the top of the mug. Make sure your red paint is dry and then seal it all in with another coat of Mod Podge. And this is supposed to be dishwasher safe, non-toxic. You should be able to drink out of these. Okay, so I forgot about this one. This one might actually be my very favorite. And we're going to use bottles, like travel size bottles from the Dollar Tree, some little mini trees I got from Hobby Lobby, some snow, jute string, craft paper, most items you can find very cheap. So the first thing is to take the snow and put into the little bottles, and I put maybe about 1/4 of the bottle full of snow. If you don't have snow flurries, which the Dollar Tree carries that, but if you don't have any snow flurries or they're all sold out, Epsom salts works great for snow too. Now this little bag of tiny Christmas trees I got at Hobby Lobby, just a couple of dollars, and I've used some of them for other crafting projects, so I'm just using what I had left over, which I had 7 trees. So I filled 7 bottles with snow and trees. The next step is to take fairy lights that you get from anywhere. This pack came from Walmart for about $2.98, and I tried to space it so that there were 2 lights inside of each jar and 1 light in the middle. The best idea I came up with to cover the jars was using brown craft paper from the Dollar Tree. I already had this on hand. So the idea I had was to do like fabric on a canning jar. Have you ever seen like on mason jars, and people want to make their canning their jams and jellies look really cute and frilly? They put a piece of fabric on the lid or in between the little lids, and it's so cute. So this was my idea to cover these little jars. So what I did was I cut squares out of the paper, and then I pressed it onto each top to make an indentation where the circle is, and then I was able to cut around however big I thought I would need, which you can see here, get an idea of how big I made my circles. An extra security measure before you tie your jute string around your little brown top would be to put a little dab of hot glue so that your top for sure stays on there. I wish I would have done that. I have to be careful with my strand of lights, but you can avoid that by just putting a little dab of hot glue to secure the little brown bag top, and then tie your jute string around like I'm doing now. And when you get your jute string put around a couple of times, you could tie a bow. You could get fancier with it than I did, but I didn't. I just tied it around, wrapped it a couple of times, and then secured it with hot glue. I think this turned out pretty darn spectacular, pretty close to the original that gave me the inspiration, and I am very happy with the way these turned out. Let me know down in the comments what you think about this DIY. The next DIY is using this candy dish from the Dollar Tree. It's just plastic. It's kind of a metallic-y green color, and they had different colors of them, but I knew I wanted to paint this black because I've been loving the black accents for Christmas this year, and I thought I would give myself a try with it, and turns out, yep, there is another genre of Christmas decorations that I am in love with. So add it to the list: gingerbread, black accents, cabin. There's plenty. It makes me want to go out and get all new stuff every year. Anyway, after I got this painted with regular black acrylic paint, I used, and it was dry, completely dry, I used this gold marker that you get at the Dollar Tree, and I just made a very thin line around the edge for that little special gold detail. You could take this candy dish a step further and use dishwasher safe Mod Podge, and you could give it a nice clear coat that would protect it in the dishwasher. At least it's supposed to. I've never tried it. Let me know if you have success with that, because I haven't actually done it yet. Anyway, I didn't do the clear coat because my candies that I was going to put in the dish were going to be individually wrapped, and I was very happy with how this $1 candy dish turned out. So the challenge was to take one of these little Dollar Tree trees and get creative and see what we can do with it. My Dollar Tree was out of these little Christmas trees. I couldn't believe it. But fortunately, I had one left over from last year. That's why it's already frosted, and I had put some berries on it and some pine cones. But that's okay, because it just saves me a step for this DIY. So when I was fiddling around with my tree, trying to figure out what I was going to make out of it, this happened. It broke in half. I didn't mean for it to happen, but like Bob Ross said, happy accidents. So there the decision was made. This little tree was going to become a swag, and it wasn't hard to break, believe me. All I did was I thought I could bend it. Well, instead of bending, it just broke. So it was not what I had exactly planned, but I really didn't have a plan anyway. So we're just gonna roll with it and turn this Christmas tree into a swag. Well, then I thought I needed something for the swag to go on, and I had this wall hanger from Dollar Tree that I hadn't used yet. So I decided to make a nice, actually it's going to be a door hanger, and we're gonna decorate it up and put our little Christmas tree swag right on. So I removed that metal piece, and that's not hard to remove. It pretty much pulls right off. Then I used my Waverly White chalk paint and just gave this ornament the back side of it. By the way, I wasn't messing with the front side and the glitter. I just covered it one coat of the chalk paint. Then I wanted the shiplap look. Surprise, surprise. And so how I like to do that is I measure across whatever it is I'm shiplapping, find the center and mark it, and I draw my first line there. And then after I get my first line drawn, I measure from that line. I like to do 2 inches down. Now that may vary depending on what it is I'm shiplapping, but on this one, and generally, I like to do 2-inch slats. So then I measure 2 inches down and draw another line and go from there. And for the little distressing, just use a block sander or a piece of sandpaper just around the edges, and then very lightly over the whole thing. Okay, before you put your swag together with these zip ties, which I only used one, it only took one for mine. Make sure that you have your branches all fluffed out where you want them to be, one side or the other, and then put your zip tie in the middle and close it very tight. fluff those branches and make sure they're looking just how you want them to, because the next step will be to hot glue this puppy down. And don't forget to cut off the hanging part of the zip tie. I may have went a little overboard in excess on the hot glue, but I felt like I needed to use a gob to make sure that this for sure stays stuck down, because it was going on a door. So I used a ton of hot glue and I pressed it down, I held it down, and I even tested it. Here in a second you'll see I pull it up by the greenery to see if it's indeed stuck, and it was. So I feel like a gob of hot glue will do the trick. For the decorations on the door hanger, I'm using one of these bows. They're just plastic and they're from Dollar Tree, but they kind of look like burlap. I thought they looked nice. And that really cute white deer that looks like he should be hanging on a wall. But since I'm so in love with the deer this year, I felt like I had to have him on this door hanger. For finishing touch, I added back the metal piece that I took off before. I swear guys, this really only took me maybe 10 minutes to do. Well, this video is only 10 minutes long and it just went by so fast. this cute winter hat that I found at the Dollar Tree, one of the Dollar Tree vases, and these little ornaments that I found at Walmart. I'm only using the part of the hat that has the snowflakes because I'm going to make kind of a sleeve around the vase. So the first thing I needed to do was cut the part of the hat that I wanted to use off. I didn't want my sleeve to be very, very thick around the vase, so I wanted to cut the lining of the hat away from the actual sweater part. And you can see where that's sewed together, so I just cut the threads and pulled it apart. Then cut the bottom edge of your sleeve. Then begin making your sweater wrap by cutting an opening for the vase to go into. Now we're not going to leave the edges raw and jagged like that, so hot glue those down to make a nice clean edge. And here's a disclaimer, I wish that I would have left myself more room when I was cutting off the puffy ball part of the hat toward the top of the hat, the first part that we cut, because when you fold that over, it took away some of the little snowflake design. So don't do like I did, leave yourself room to hot glue those edges over. So this is the LED candle that I had. It came from Dollar General a long time ago, and it's not exactly Christmassy, but my sweater sleeve is going to hide that design. So here I'm just checking to see where my placement on the vase should be in order to hide the design on my candle. Now obviously, if you didn't have a design that you were trying to hide on a candle, you could place your sweater sleeve or sweater wrap anywhere. But when I was happy with the placement, then I put some hot glue down and began to wrap it around my vase. She's looking pretty cute just like that, right? But I had these ornaments that I wanted to use. So I took the one that said let it snow because I thought it matched the snowflakes so good, and I began kind of playing around with where I wanted to put it. It looks pretty cute on the glass like that, I have to admit. I kind of wish I would have put it there, but I didn't want to put any hot glue on the glass. So I just kind of tucked it down inside my sleeve by the little jute string that it was hanging from. Just tucked it right down inside there. No hot glue needed. This is a tray that I found at Michael's for $39.99, and these are the materials from the Dollar Tree I'm going to use to recreate it. The first thing I did was cut the end of the plunger that had the plastic part on, and then I cut that stick in, not quite in two equal pieces. One piece was just a little longer. And then sand the cut ends till they're smooth. Find the center of the plate, and I used a tape measure to measure across both ways, and then I trace a circle where my plunger stick will go. And this is the longer plunger stick that will go on the bottom layer. Then do the same thing on the underside of the top plate. Now, before I settled on JB Weld, I had tried just hot glue, E6000, super glue, and nothing was holding this wood to this metal. So JB Weld is something that the guys in my family have used for everything. JB Weld they did that with everything. So I thought, well, it'll work for me too then. It comes with two separate adhesives in this plunger thing that you have to mix together. And I just used a wooden popsicle stick to mix the glue up. And I used that same popsicle stick to put the glue onto my plate and my wooden sticks. And they're holding. This is the only thing that I have found that actually works. So I'm a big advocate for the JB Weld. The longer plunger stick goes on bottom and the shorter plunger stick goes on top with the rounded end of the handle up. And also, after I used the JB Weld, I let it cure for a whole 24 hours. It sets in a minute, but I wanted to make sure that it was going to stay before I messed with it any further. Now, the inspiration tray had a ball at the top of its handle, and so I'm going to make a ball using one of these plastic gun balls, and a ping pong ball would work too, but honestly, I kind of wanted to play with the gun, so that's why I bought the gun that came with 3 balls. After the whole thing was assembled, I took it outside and gave it a nice white coat of spray paint. And for the candy cane stripe edge, I used Scotch tape to make the stripes, and I'm going to use red acrylic paint to paint the stripes on. And of course, I repeated the striping process on the top layer tray as well. Then I used these decals I made with my Cricut to finish it all off. Since I already had red vinyl on hand, the final cost for my project was only $4. If you have to go out and buy vinyl, one sheet will do it, and that's only a couple of dollars. So your cost would only be $6 for this tray. Now, what about the treats that Mrs. Claus probably has in her kitchen? These little gingerbreads came from the Dollar Tree last year. I can't even believe they survived my Christmas totes and didn't get broke because they are real gingerbread meant to be eaten. But I'm going to put them in this jar. I'm going to put Epsom salt down first to make the bulk of my snow. And then I'm going to take some fake flurry snow, which they have bags of those at the Dollar Tree for $1, and that adds more realness to the snow. Dollar General. Actually, I'm only just going to be using this one with the mittens. The first thing you need to do is remove those red strings from the bag. You just cut off the ends and pull them right out. Always remember to let your little furry helper give his stamp of approval, let him in on your craft, let him be part of your craft, and just accept that he's going to sit on your craft. If you haven't guessed it already, we're going to turn this gift bag into a pillow, a little tiny accent pillow. And I like to use the stuffing out of regular bed pillows that I get from the dollar stores. This particular one came in a pack of 2. It was only $2, making each pillow only $1. And my little furry helper Piper likes to help me fluff the stuffing before I put it in my pillow. The next thing I saw was that my design wasn't going to be completely centered, so I needed to trim off part of the top, which I just cut using the hem that was already there. Then I just used my hot glue gun to seal up the end. I hope you enjoyed my top 12 favorite Christmas crafts so far. I'm gathering some new ideas as we speak, and I'll be coming back to show you some new Christmas crafts next Tuesday. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. Bye.